Hello, beautiful human. I'm Zach. That is Dan. We welcome to the studio, the one, the only Orville Peck.
Yo. Hello. Thank you so much.
We have an album to discuss, but you have such a unique accent for a ballet dancer from South Africa who's also in love with Dolly Parton.
It's true. It's very true. No, I've lived, I left South Africa when I was 14 or 15, and I've lived all over North America. I lived in Europe. I lived in London, Portugal, Canada. So I kind of, I don't know, I adopted this like strange sort of amalgamation for an accent.
Why did your parents originally move out of South Africa?
My father is a sound engineer, and so both my parents have been self-employed our whole lives and kind of just like gone wherever there's been work. And so my dad got a job offer in Canada in 2002, so we left then.
How do you view South Africa now?
I love it. It's my favorite place on earth.
Do you have a different like relationship with it because you did move away? Like most hometowns, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess my different relationship to it would just be that I probably hold it even dearer because I miss it a lot. You know what I mean? Like, it's the most special place on earth, and not even just because I'm from there. It just is different than anywhere else on earth. And so I go back as much as I can.
How does that fuel the records that you make? Because we're talking about country music, right? And I think country means something different to everybody.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, the kind of, I mean, I spend all my time when I'm home in South Africa. I spend most of my time in what we call the bush, which is like on safari, as you know, North Americans call it. And like, I like to be around animals and just out in the wild. And I mean, I think that sort of landscape has given me a lot of imagery to paint with. I think I grew up in such a cinematic sort of place. I think it kind of fuels my music in that way, you know?
You say your songs start visually, right? Mm-hmm. That's from the very beginning of your process, like from the first album. Does that still exist today?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the thing is like I've done very little over the years to try and improve myself on a technical level as a musician. You know, like I know that I'm at my best when I'm just sort of making it up my own way, you know? Like that's how I've approached always playing guitar, playing piano, playing drums. Like I just taught myself everything, and I think, you know, a lot of times I would hear other people's opinions of that being like, oh, that's not how you play that chord or that's whatever. But like, I don't know. That's always just been my style, is to just kind of do it my way. I don't know if it's like a pettiness or what it is, but
like if it's not broken, don't fix it, right?
I guess. I mean, now it's like, yeah, right. Now I don't even question it because it's worked in, you know, the ways that I've wanted it to, in the sense that I've gotten to do incredible stuff in my career, you know, even in a short amount of time. And I mean, I think it is probably largely due to the fact that I did have this sort of really specific vision, and combining that with a very tenacious ambition to do what I'm going to do. I think that's probably it. Yeah.
When do you have the vision, though? Because there's a moment between you being in a band and then you go to London and you go to school, right? Like you study dance, you study theatrical arts. A lot of that exists in what you do today, obviously.
Yeah. So I think, you know, growing up, I was an actor when I was a little kid. When I was like 10, I used to do voiceover for like cartoons and TV and stuff like that in South Africa. And then I used to simultaneously around that age sit around and play my dad's guitar and write songs and sing. And then I also found a love for dance, and so I took ballet and all kinds of dance for many years and was like, you know, dancing at a professional level.
Dude, discipline like crazy. Also, being a voice actor,
trauma.
Crazy discipline. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, no, and so... And then I also found a love of playing in bands, and so I was a drummer in punk bands when I was a teenager. So I was doing all of these things throughout, from about the age of like 10 or 11 until, well, I was then doing each of them separately professionally by the time I was 22. And I used to think of them as separate careers. You know, like I had my acting career that I would give some focus to. And then I had my career as a drummer. And then, you know, I did these things all kind of compartmentalized for a long time. And also with this sort of insecure notion that I had to be anything but myself in order for these things to be successful. You know, like, especially acting, you know, that was like, acting was really hard for me because I think I would walk in the room and I found it so hard to be vulnerable and just be myself. And that's like the key to acting, really, you know, but it's kind of the key to all these things. And so then, yes, I moved to London. Long story short, this is in my mid to late 20s. And I decided to do some like classical theater training because I wanted to go and do like Shakespeare and Chekhov and Ibsen, that kind of stuff. And after that, I worked as an actor in London and got to kind of check off some bucket list things. And then I wanted to go back to music, and you know, I'd loved country music my whole life, and I'd loved songwriting as this sort of more of a backseat passion that I didn't really share with many people. You know, even when I was a drummer and whatever, I think my creativity of songwriting and storytelling, it was more private for me. And so then I had this sort of epiphany where I was like, you know, I want to go back to music. I'm sort of tired of acting because I miss creating. And, you know, a lot of acting is like, you know, there's creation, but it's a lot of following someone's vision sometimes. And I was like, fuck, I can just combine all these things I've done separately my whole life and had been passionate about. I can do them all rolled into one thing, and also do it as authentically, like challenge myself to do it as vulnerably and authentically as I could muster. And, you know, that's what Pony was. That's like what that album was for me.
You felt safe doing that because of The Mask.
Yeah. I think I was like, The Mask allowed me the permission to explore this thing that I'd loved from afar for so long. It allowed me permission to like try it without judgment or without, you know, I don't know. It gave me that permission, really. As well as I knew I wanted to do something sort of visually artistic as well. You know, I wanted it to be more than just music. I wanted there to be more to it than that.
Was your outlet for vulnerability those songs that you were making even before you decided to release anything?
Yeah. You know, I've journaled since I could write, like since I was like a toddler, basically. I've kept diaries and journals. I've got hundreds of them. Like I write in a journal every single day, which is pretty amazing because now, what am I, 36? And there's a lot of stuff to look back on and read and like, you know, see these different parts of myself, especially as I get older. It's like super fascinating. But
how often you go back?
When I'm writing, I go back now a lot because I go back to, I think the thing that's really nice about journaling and special and why I would really encourage my kids to journal and stuff like that is like, there is no matter how, what's the word? I guess, no matter how true you are to yourself as an artist, as a person, your integrity, all that stuff, there's a point for everyone when you start to do this for a living and it becomes successful and whatever, where you can't help but start to think about an audience and what they're going to think of what you do and what you're going to write. And, you know, someone else comes into the equation other than just making art for yourself. But that the making art for self part, I think, is in its purest form when you're a kid, you know, because you're just like, there's no judgment. There's no, you know, you don't even know what the fuck you're doing. You're just doing it because you love it and this is cool and whatever. So being able to go back and read like diary entries and even sometimes like poetry or whatever from when I was a kid, it's so pure and creative. And even if I don't like literally use it verbatim, it spurs something in me that reminds me why I do this and how I have to do it.
That, you know, that's so beautifully healthy, because I do wonder, like, I'm like, there's a blind naivete that like existed in this blind confidence that just was totally misplaced. But I had it very early on, and I really credit that for like a lot of risks and a lot of success in my life. And that's like one thing I try to chase, right? Is like how to get that back. Because like there is, even to all the risks you had to take, like, dude, even to chase music in general, like there's a lot of like, there has to be blind confidence. There has to be this like,
oh yeah,
fuck.
If you're paying too much attention, you're going to scare yourself out of it.
Totally.
Because it's fucked. Yeah. You got to just like, you sort of got to put like the blinders on and just go for what your vision is, you know? And it's so hard. It's so much easier said than done.
But that's the biggest one, is like, go for your vision, because it is easier said than done, because there's 1,000 people who want to deter you from that. And
oh yeah.
Plus also like consistency is what sets you apart.
Well, and also if you've come up hustling in any way, shape, or form, which I did to the nth degree with all of my careers, you know, really coming from, you know, I didn't come from money or like, you know, nepotism or anything like that. I really had to work super hard at all these things. I think, where was I going with this? I don't remember what I was saying. What was I saying?
You're talking about, I mean, dude, you worked really hard.
Oh yeah, but before that, I had a point. There was something I was gonna say, and I can't remember now. But, that's it. So you know, if you come at it, if you had to hustle for any of this stuff in any way, you also, I think, you become sort of conditioned to say yes to everything and opportunities and try and like, because you're like desperately trying to make this
always, because it can go away.
And that kind of like yes mentality can go forever and lead you so down a path off your vision. You know, it's like, that was like the hardest thing for me to learn after being a ballet dancer and like doing all this stuff that was so structured and had so much expectation and so much perfection required of it, to like, and also to be so humble and grateful for any opportunity, even when your feet are bleeding. You're supposed to go home and be like, it's not good enough, but I love it, you know? Like,
but that teaches you.
It taught me, I mean, listen, I show up like earlier than anyone on my team for everything I do, you know? It's like I'm a psychopath, like, but it gave me like an incredibly dedicated work ethic, for sure, you know, and also like a willingness to push myself physically, emotionally, whatever it might be, in order to make art, because that's what you do when you're a dancer and when you do that kind of stuff, you know. But that's sort of learning to say no, it came so hard to me because I couldn't grapple with the idea that I was saying no to an opportunity because I fought so long for opportunities. And so it's like a real mindfuck, you know?
Hello, beautiful human. Every year, millions of gamers experience IGSS, inadequate gaming setup syndrome. Luckily, a cure has been found. You have to go beyond with the Vibrasonic mattress by Beyond Sleep. This thing has 6 built-in subwoofers, USB ports for charging, LED lights so you never stub your toe. Gives you an acoustic massage when you want it, plus adjustable degrees of comfort. This right here is the best way to game ever. Cure your IGSS today at BeyondSleepTech.com. Was there a moment you realized that maybe you strayed a little bit too far from your original vision? Have you ever strayed?
I don't think so. Maybe, I don't think, nothing stands out to me. I mean, I can tell you there's definitely been times in my career that I've done something or performed for someone or whatever it might be, And afterwards, I've been like, that was pretty lame. Like, I don't need to be doing that shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like I don't need to be doing like, I won't give names, but like, you know, like sometimes you do shit and you're like, that felt bad. Like, even if no one has to see it or whatever, you're like, yeah, you're just like, like the young version of me would be like, that fucking is so stupid. You know what I mean? Like, but also, you know, this is something I've been thinking about a lot recently is like the other kind of fucked up thing is as artists these days specifically, and more so, it is harder and harder and harder, even for really big successful artists, to turn profit with your music. Like you have to find all of these other avenues, you know, nothing like your music makes you fuck all. Like you get paid like,
it's true.
You know, I know, like no offense to whatever the streaming companies are, but I think you get like, you know, a fraction of a fucking cent for whatever it is.
But
like,
all of that compromises the integrity of the art, right? Like when you have to do other shit.
Well, that's the thing. And so like, then your focus has to, like, you know, to put like, to pay the bills and do whatever. And also the bigger you get, you know, you start to employ tons of people. People are reliant on you for a living. You've got tours, you've got lawyers, you've got managers. Like it's kind of crazy. And then you're doing this because you make music, you're a musician, and you can't make a cent off of that. And so you have to do all of this other stuff while trying to maintain your integrity, trying not to piss off your audience, trying not to do, like, it's so fucking much, you know? Like, and then sometimes you'll do something, you know, you'll do something that's like a partnership with a brand or something like that, and people can be so critical of it. And it's like, well, you know, do me a favor here. Like, you know, we gotta make fucking money somehow. Yeah, exactly. Like you're like listening to your streaming platform and not paying me a fucking dirt for my music, and you're complaining that I have to go and like hold a product in my music video. Fuck you. Like, what do you want me to do here?
Music video is great.
Thank you.
Really great music video. Also a great
not
source
me
of
ranting.
energy. No, but genuinely, I get it too well. But it is sad that we live in a world like I listen to Stampede and I go, this is a perfect album from top to bottom.
Thank you.
The musicality on this thing is top notch. It is layered in the most beautiful way. It is real fucking music. It's real. The instrumentation's real. The horns, the fucking story you're telling, the strategic placement of these covers. It doesn't earn the respect as it should. Or like the financial acclaim is not as easy to access as it was maybe even 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah, even 5 years ago.
Yeah, you knew the gatekeepers, dude. You knew where to go, what radio stations to go to. The people at streamers, you knew their name. There was a process and a strategy.
Yeah.
And now it's like...
Oh, it's like the Wild West. Like
literally,
it's
and
just,
not the good kind.
And it's crazy. It's crazy to watch. It's crazy to be a creative in the room with like the business side of things, like label or whatever, and seeing I kind of don't think anyone has like across the board in this industry, like no one really knows what makes something successful anymore, and they don't know how. There's no clear plan or avenue for it, you know, and it's kind of. I mean, it's due to a lot of things, but it's really, not to get too cliche artist talk, but it's really to do with the sort of disposable consumption of music.
It's crazy,
you know.
And people don't think like, you know, the time it takes to make a song has not changed, right? People who care about,
but no one even cares about that anymore or values that. I mean, like, I would say like, I would assume that most young people who are just listening to music as a pastime, like they don't give a shit that I have, you know, a real horn section on my song or not. They're like, whatever, you know, and so you do these things to be an artist and build your art. And yeah, I'm not even certain it's really appreciated, but maybe that's fine too, you know?
But I can make the case that if they don't actively, consciously appreciate it, a part of why they're loving the record and getting lost in it is the real horn section, right? Like
whether they know it or not.
Exactly.
For sure. But it would be so much nicer if they knew it.
Totally. Yeah.
Because we knew it, you know?
Yeah, and the time
I
it
knew
takes
it.
and
When
the
I was
budget.
listening to like albums that changed my life, like I knew why that was changing my life, and that's why I revere those albums to this day, and have been listening to them for 25 years or whatever, like, and so, yeah, there's something getting lost in the mix these days, and it's hard to watch even just as a fan of art and music. I just think, you're seeing it across the board in entertainment in general. I mean, look at like film is seeing the worst attendance to movies it's ever had. Like, there's just no audience for it anymore. Like, I mean, things feel kind of bleak for art at the moment, and I hate that.
Yeah, but it will come back, and when it comes back, there's a discography here that's beautiful. You have a collection of albums that are very special, and they do show growth. I mean, you can hear it, right?
Definitely, yeah, for sure.
Between albums for you, do you set goals? Do you set ways in which you want to do better or improve for you?
Yes, but I think, something that I don't know if it's as like linear as setting specific goals. I think I always know in my gut like what kind of album I want to make next, and I think the growth is sort of just inherently part of that, like if you allow growth, it'll be there, and I think I'm someone who really welcomes growth, change, evolution. I like that stuff in other artists too, like I don't want my favorite artists to make the exact same album twice. Like, why?
But there is something that country music allows you to do, right? Like, as long as the core is your story, you have a lot of freedom there.
Yeah. Well, I base it always, yes. The first bottom line of when I make an album, Stampede is the exception because it was a collaborative album, right? So it's sort of Stampede, the process was slightly different because that was sitting down with someone else and being like, what's 50% me? What's 50% you? How do we make that 100% in a song?
Compromises exist. Mm-hmm. Compromises exist in those situations, right?
Oh my God, 100%. I mean, even just the skill of like, I used to adamantly not work with writers or producers. For my first 2 records, I didn't. And it wasn't until Bronco that I started to work with other writers, and I had a producer for the first time. Everything else I'd produced myself. I worked with Jay Joyce for Bronco, and it's like it was sort of a skill to learn for me to share something so precious and important to me with someone else, and to like make space for an idea that wasn't mine. Even if it was a better idea, I had to learn the humility of like, oh, actually, this is the beautiful thing of collaborating. It's, once again, it's sort of like surrendering, it's sort of like that letting go of that stuff.
With that comes being vulnerable with somebody.
100%, yeah. It's about, it's about changing your mindset from that young actor who used to walk in the room for auditions and think like, who am I going to be today to be employable and successful? Changing that mindset to be who I am today, which is, loving that I'm just who I am. And that's sometimes wrong, and that's sometimes funny, and that's sometimes depressing, and whatever else it is. But I'm so proud and happy to be that because that's all I can be, And when you surrender into being yourself, like the possibilities in life become so endless, because I truly think that is the one thing everyone is like held back from their potential, is getting in their own way and thinking they have to change who they are or be something different to make other people happy. It's like a curse on our society.
So true.
Yeah.
It's weird. Like, in one respect, we applaud people for being individuals, but also in the same respect, we want everyone to.
Listen, I was as individual as they come as a kid. I was, I had 2 older brothers, came from a great loving family. And like, I was, from when I was little, I've been told, I was just like very obviously different, in my spirit, my everything. And for many years, not by my family always encouraged me that was special and my power, but for many years, I felt like that was my weakness. In high school, in elementary school even, I mean, like, even through my 20s, like, so much of my insecurity was derived from the fact that I knew I was different, and I thought that that was a bad thing, and I thought that that held me back. And then something shifted for me where I realized, like, oh, fuck, actually, this is my power. And once I embraced that, I mean, it's really when I decided to start doing country music. And
what shifted, though?
I think, you know, I'd finally reached sort of my ultimate goal as an actor when I was in London. And I kind of checked that off, and I kind of proved to myself that I could be like a legitimate actor. And then after that, I was like deciding what I was going to do with my life after my last contract as an actor. And I felt like I needed to challenge myself. I felt like I owed it to my creator part of myself, like the person, the kid who wrote songs in my bedroom on my guitar. I think I felt like I owed it to myself with this newfound sort of confidence to go back to writing music and doing it in a way that I wanted to, that I always like was scared to, you know?
Do you remember when you wrote a song that you considered good?
Dead of Night was the first song I wrote for country music and for, you know, on Pony. And I think...
That was the first song ever you wrote for country music?
Yeah, that was the first song for Pony I wrote.
Holy shit.
Night, yeah. And you know, in that song, what that song is really about is about unrequited love. I grew up as a skateboarder and a punk and playing in punk bands and all this stuff, you know, as well as being a ballet dancer and all this other shit. But my core friend group were all like straight boys. I didn't know like a single other queer person until I was in my 20s as a friend. I always grew up with straight boys. My brothers, my two older brothers, like my best friends, you know. And I used to constantly fall in love with these guys that just weren't, you know, they couldn't love me back. And that's actually what Dead of Night is about. And that's why I say, see the boys as they walk on by. Because it just felt like I was always in a state of longing. And I think when I found how to tap into that ability to be vulnerable and also hopefully poetic about it, I was like, oh shit, that's it. Like, that's how to make, at least for me, a good song, you know?
What do you realize about yourself from writing these feelings into a song?
I think it's probably what has at times in my life, not to be dramatic, stopped me from probably killing myself with depression, is the knowing that I can get whatever it might be I'm going through in my life or on my chest or whatever. You know, I've gone through some pretty intense stuff in the relationship department that at times, you know, really I thought was going to kill me. And I think, yeah, music, like writing music and telling those stories, like doing that thing like I did with Dead of Night, I mean, that's saved my life countless times. It
allows you to explore and also see and hear. It's very tangible.
Yeah, and I also surprise myself sometimes. I mean, that's what was beautiful about Stampede. Is like, you know, I was in this place where after Bronco, you know, I toured for ever on Bronco, and then, you know, it was like that yes thing again. I was literally just saying yes to every tour, saying yes to everything, and going so hard at it, which of course garnered a lot of things that I'm super grateful for. But my spirit, I was so worn out, and I was starting to become so resentful of music as an industry and as a whole thing, because I was just not finding any joy in it, you know? And so then I hit sort of a rock bottom, and I canceled all my touring last year. I took a year off, basically. And I honestly, at some points, wasn't sure if I would ever even, I thought I might just like not make, stop doing this, basically.
What was fueling that?
What was what?
What was fueling your desire to not do this any longer?
I think it was just also, there's an element to this that I think sometimes people are like nervous to talk about because I think it sounds like a first world problem, which it is in some respects, but most people are not equipped to deal with success and specifically notoriety. And I personally was not the kind of person that ever anticipated or knew how to digest 6,000 opinions about me every time I made a post on Instagram. Good or bad. Good or bad. Some mostly good. But it's not normal. It's not healthy, and it's not normal to consume that as a person. It's like if everyone on this planet, every move they made was open to opinion by thousands and thousands of people, it starts to really fuck with you, And for me, that was a big component of it. I felt like my privacy was violated all the time. I felt nervous about all sorts of things, And that was hard. That was really hard. And I don't even know how, I'm not even that notable. I don't know how people with like crazy celebrity, I don't know how they function. I know a few of them, and it's hard. They struggle, and especially now, the tone of like social media and fandom, it can be so toxic and so crazy. Even when it's in the positive, it's like a lot, it's intense. So there was that component, overworking myself, overextending myself, worried that if I didn't work that hard, if I didn't do all those things, would I have a career the next day? Would I have the chance to make another album? Would my record label be happy? Would my, you start to lose sight of the vision. The vision starts to become the least important thing. There's all this other shit you're worried about.
It's like survival.
Yeah, I was supporting my family, I had there was so much shit going on,
That nobody knows, by the way. So
yeah, of course, yeah. And then it's and then you can't do anything right on social media. You can't do, it's just, it's hard. I think, and I don't think enough people talk about that it's hard. And I think people are nervous too because it sounds like, poor us or whatever, and that's totally valid and fair. There's a lot of way worse shit going on in the world. But I will say, for me, if I'm being fully honest, it's been hard for sure.
I understand it. I do. Sadly, very much. I totally get it.
Yeah.
But by the way, also everybody's problems have a place, right? No matter the size or magnitude.
It's all relative,
100%. And on top of that, the way you put it was really proper, right? Whether it's constant positive feedback or constant negative feedback, either one is detrimental to one's health and also their perspective of themselves,
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's at any given moment, I don't really, I try to be as far removed from social media as I can, save, of course, if I'm in an album cycle or something, I'm making content and posting and that stuff. And I've learned really well to not go diving into comments and things like that. Or if I put a music video out, not reading the YouTube comments or things like that. I used to do it almost obsessively. It almost becomes this, and it's the worst self-fulfilling prophecy, because it's you don't want all these opinions about you, but you can't stop yourself from seeing them. And they're so readily available to you if you have, a platform.
By the way, those comments compromise the vision.
1,000%. It's that's the thing. And especially, I stress again, if you're someone that is just, I don't think it's taken me years years of therapy and maturing and all kinds of stuff to have decent social skills. Like I was like a very socially anxious person. And so if you're someone like that and you're like dealing with this stuff, it's a nightmare.
Does music make you more socially anxious?
No. Music, performing is, I was just saying this to my partner. Performing is, I think, the only thing in my life where, when I'm like on stage in my concert, everything else just falls away. Like, anything emotional, mental, physical, whatever's ailing me, like once I get on stage and perform, like I don't feel any of that stuff. Like it's the one place, it sounds really cliche, but I mean, it really is. It's like my one like safe, amazing place where I can just exist and I don't have to think about it. It's not something I have to try to do. I just know how to do it, Are you like, speaking of that, like this like subconscious competence, like this idea that you can just do something without thinking about it? Are you at a place where like you don't, like you just write music and the vision that and the character that is Orville Peck, or the different shades of Orville, like the different shades of yourself that make up Orville? Like, do you just know it, or are you like calculated with your moves? Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah, I think I work a lot off of instincts and like I always think my first idea is my best. I kind of think everyone's first idea is their best. Usually.
Interesting.
And so, yeah, like sometimes I'll write a song. Maybe it's just lyrics. Maybe it's like a title. Maybe it's like an idea of what the song's going to be, whatever. And then immediately I judge it and like, give myself a hard time about it and think how it has to be different. And then go down a rabbit hole like that for a little bit. Then I kind of honor what I did to begin with and just go for it. And then eventually it comes around where I'm like, oh, like this is exactly the song I wanted to make from the beginning. And I just had to sort of go through a little process of courage to do it.
Interesting. Like you have to, like that cycle's necessary though.
I think for me, yeah, I think I don't have the immediate like, I mean, everyone who knows me knows that like the best and worst thing about me is I care so much about practically everything. Yes, of course, that's great in like some cases,
Dude, genius is a nuance. Like it's in the details.
But it also means you have to limit your reach for perfection, and to realize that just doesn't exist. Because, I was just joking with someone the other day that, we were talking about how you put a song out and then, people hear it like a year after and you're already moved on from it and whatever. But I was like, I don't move on from them because I'm always like, fuck, I should have done this. Or like, like I'm always thinking about how I could improve something. And I think that probably translates into my songwriting, that's the growth as well, is that I'm always trying to like do something different than I even did and challenge myself.
Are there songs that you wrote when at the time of writing it meant one thing to you, but today when you listen to it, it means something totally different?
Oh my God, 1,000%. Yeah, it's crazy. It's so funny because you don't assume that something you make will have that sort of effect. But yeah, a lot of the songs on Pony mean something so different to me as I get older. And it actually allows me to be present and perform them, I think, in a true way now, because I can sort of relate them to something now rather than trying to like perform, some of the songs on Pony I wrote like 7 years ago. It's like I'm a totally different person than I was 7 years ago. But I can do Dead at Night every night because I can relate it to something in my life now.
It's hard.
It's hard, but if you just surrender into it, it's hard to get to that point. But once you do it, then it's easy. Then it's relief. It's relief of the burden of trying. Period. Trying and trying to do and just being and just doing.
That's still hard to do, man.
Yeah, it's nuts. It shouldn't be that hard.
Life is fucking hard.
I know.
Oh my God. By the way, link to Stampede below. You should listen to it all on Amazon Music. Tell your Alexa to play it.
Where do you feel like your music fits in with today's country music?
I think, well, there's a few ways I could answer this. I think if we're talking musically, I think I bring a reverence and love and a genuine admiration of classical country. And I'm kind of including, probably up until the 90s now when I say that. But I always strive to, I don't ever want to sound like a throwback wedding band or something, Like, I don't want it to be like a pastiche. I want it to be inspired from all of that, but then bring my own other influences into it as well. Like I've always included little flecks of punk or alternative or, all kinds of stuff into that. So I think that's my place musically is I think I do something not entirely unique, but I think it's not super common,
Totally.
in country.
I think it's country for today's generation. Like, I think it's very much about the now as opposed to the then.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And
it's also nostalgic. You keep the right elements of what makes country country. Do you get what I'm saying?
yeah, because I keep the elements that I like about country when I want to feel nostalgic.
Your voice is crazy.
Thank you.
Like, do you just realize one day that you can sing like that? Or you had to have known for a while.
Sort of. I always sang, but I used to only sing really high, like, I remember I had someone like tell me I was a tenor and then that was like engraved in my brain. I'm like, that's it. Like I sing high, it's like another crazy conditioning of being like an actor or something, someone tells you like, this is the part you can play. And then you're like, that's my life, forever. Like,
it's so true.
It's so fucked that someone can have such an impact on you,
because you find peace in that, right? Because it's
you're
very
like,
hard
okay,
to
direction. Thank you.
Yeah, because by the way, it's hard and scary to develop oneself.
1,000, or to explore parts that you're not even sure you're going to succeed at. That's the fucking the whole other thing. But
frightening.
Yeah. Then when I went to London and I trained at this conservatory and I always spoke in a low voice, like I've always had a lower timbre to my voice. But I never thought I could sing low. And then, when I was in this conservatory, I started doing more voice work and not even on a technical, like la 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 kind of way, like more like a discovering your voice way. And I was like, holy shit, I can sing really low. And not only can I sing really low, but, when we want to get really kind of woo here, when I sing low, I can connect easier to my emotions than when I sing high.
Interesting.
And I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's a proven
but
thing.
Your normal speaking voice is pretty low.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I feel like the voice inside your head is talking to you at this.
Yeah,
this
I mean,
tone.
once again, I used to be, and the way I sang was it was like another me getting in my own way. It was me doing something that I thought I had to do for whatever reason and trying to be like, that's what I've got to do and that's going to be successful. And when I finally, once again, that's like the theme in my life. It's like once I get out of my own way, I'm like, oh, fuck, I did it. Whoops. Like,
your greatness is actually comes to fruition.
Yeah, I think that's for everybody, though. I don't think it's unique to me. I think that's like that's how to overcome the human condition, I think.
Interesting. What are you thinking, Daniel?
Is the mask today more for the identity or is it still for privacy?
I don't know if it was ever for privacy because I think when I first started, I didn't think that I was gonna. I didn't even think I was gonna be in remotely the same universe of the kind of success I've had now. I thought like I didn't think anybody would care.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
There was no part of you that like imagined this?
Of course. I mean, there's I've always had that ambition, but I think all I really set out at first to do was to do Pony, to make an album, and to do it in this way that to make country music and to do it in this way that I wanted to do it. You know, I didn't even have a band when I first started Pony. I played almost everything myself. And everything after that I've done has sort of been like a cherry on top of that in a weird way, you know? But yeah, of course. I mean, I've also got this side of me that's like super ambitious and has wild, big dreams, and still is like that. I still always dream bigger and bigger and bigger. But when I first started, I didn't believe that would be the case.
Stampede has to be a part of that. Like, you knew one day you'd do a duets album, but
Yep.
Willie Nelson really kind of sparks the whole thing and speeds up the process.
Yep.
I mean, even to get that phone call. What the fuck?
Yeah.
That's crazy, no?
Yeah. It's completely insane.
I'm sweating thinking about it.
Yeah. It's, you know, the really the really sort of validating part of Stampede. There's many things about it that have made me a better musician, made me remember how to have fun making music again. Like there's so many great things that have happened from this album for me on a personal level. But, you know, Willie Nelson's the perfect example because each of them is actually their own thing, but I'll talk about Willie. Being a country musician who wears a mask and sings about men and all this stuff that you're not supposed to do in country or whatever, you know, being told left, right, and center I'm not country because of those things, essentially, for years. You know, I have a lyric that, you know, speaking of stuff that rings true now, I have a lyric in a song I wrote years ago for my EP Show Pony. It's called No Glory in the West, and I sing a lyric that says, tired of begging them just to compete. You know, like, I feel like I've so many times within the world of country just been begging for not even like a favor, just let me in.
Yeah,
let me just
ring.
stand here. You know, like, I won't even speak. Let me just stand in the room. So then to have Willie Nelson, I mean, inarguably one of like 2 or 3 living legends in country music, ask me to do something with him and to do this song in particular, which is about gay cowboys. I mean, that just like, it was the biggest fuck you to like all of those people who put me through that for so long and made me at sometimes like believe that maybe I didn't have a place here, you know? So I didn't even realize how healing that was going to be for me, you know?
It's just wild to think, like, what a brave song for Ned to release in the first place.
Crazy.
But also for there to still be this stigma that made it so hard for you to even get a chance to, I don't know, like, again, compete.
Yeah.
Like, there was no real growth there.
Yeah, it's like, you know, it's so slow moving.
Culture is, man. Society is.
Yeah, it's like, I wish I could say it's only in music. It's everywhere, really. But
I think music and life are very intertwined.
fully. I mean, I think it's very indicative of whatever's happening in life. But, you know, I think sometimes it feels like there's been a lot of progress, specifically in country music. If you think about, I don't know, me, Casey Musgraves, even Zach Bryan to an extent. Like, you know, there's a lot of people who have come and done stuff that's, you know, a true artistic interpretation of their version of country or whatever you want to call it. But, you know, you think that there's been progress and then sometimes it feels like there's been none at all, you know, which is really disheartening. I mean, I think it really bummed me out to see how much discourse there was over, you know, Beyonce doing a country album. Because, and I've worked with Beyonce, you know, I did her Ivy Park rodeo campaign. I was like a big part of it. And, you know, I know how country she is. She's fucking from Houston. She's like a country girl. She loves country music. And then she put out those first 2 songs, which were like, you know, really country songs. And And then for everyone to be like, this isn't country. It's like, well, what you're really saying is she's black. And like, let's just talk about it.
But
like, you're saying she's not country because you have some political agenda attached to this genre of music.
Totally. I mean, when you break down what the genre is, isn't it just storytelling?
Yeah. And then it's like, if you want to even be a stickler and go for instrumentation, she had fucking banjo. Like, it's country. It's country. It's country. If you played that without telling anyone any context of who it was, and you said, what genre of music is this? You'd say it's country music. Like, undeniably, you know?
Like, do you work your records to country radio?
Yeah. I mean, country radio, look, is, it's very much its own thing. Let's just put it that way.
I know.
I think, and it's funny because sometimes I'll flip on like, you know, mainstream country radio, and I'm like waiting for the country songs. I'm like, this doesn't sound that country to me.
That's why I asked the question originally, because you listen to country radio and it doesn't sound like what you're making, but your music sounds like country music.
And then the mindfuck is that you have a whole group of people who are adamantly saying that what I do is not country, even though
that's nuts.
It's wild. Yeah.
You got to listen to Orville's album. It's waiting for you. Stampede. I mean, dude, Elton John's on here.
I mean, you're singing an Elton John song with Elton John.
Yeah, it's fucking cool.
Yeah, I mean, I used to dance around to that song as a child. Like, it's madness.
But that's taking somebody who's not necessarily country and making them country. But again, he's a storyteller, so I can make the case that is country at its core.
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah. Honky Chateau.
Totally.
Like, yeah, he's country for sure.
Also, Noah Cyrus.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the deal? Did her brother write that record?
Yeah. Yeah, her brother Brazen wrote that song.
Cool.
Yeah, Noah and we've been super close friends for years now. She's like my little sister.
She's very special.
I think she's also phenomenal.
She is.
It's so underrated.
She is incredible.
Dude, it's. I say it all the time. She has one of the best voices in the business. Just period. Like, she is so. And she is incredibly creative, incredibly inspiring. Like, she has so much input in everything she does. I mean, I know that sounds like it should be everyone, but trust me, it's not. It's really not.
Dude, and the records are good.
She is super underrated.
Unfinished?
I have so much respect for her.
Fuck. I want to listen to that song right now.
Oh, dude, it's so
she's
good.
She is very, genuinely, it makes me happy that somebody else sits on the couch and says that Noah Cyrus is underrated.
No, she's so talented.
Because we've been preaching it for fucking ever.
She is so talented. And yeah, we've wanted to do something together for years, like forever. And we always knew we would, of course. And then, you know, Stampede came about, and I was like, of course, Noah has to be. I wouldn't have put the record out without Noah. Like, it's just like she had to be on it, you know? And then we were toying with a few different ideas and different songs back and forth, even songs that we had in our back pocket for years. And then she was like, you know, my brother wrote this one song, and she sent it, and we were both just like, oh my God, this is like such a beautiful song and such a great country duet.
Wow. How far will we take it?
Yeah.
Crazy that it came from her brother.
Yeah, Brazen.
What do you think?
What goes into putting together a duets album? It seems like reaching out to all these collaborators is like a whole job in itself.
It is something I will never do again.
It's almost like a once in career type thing.
And I honestly have the least to do with it in the like logistics world, to be frank. Like, you know, it's my team, like my manager Annika, she needs like she should get like the Nobel Peace Prize or something, because like 18 artists on this album. That's 18 different release schedules, styles of working, amounts of communication varying, teams varying. Like, I mean, the liner notes on this album, like, we sent them to my lawyer, and he was like, "You're fucking joking. Like, this is no." Like, it was honestly, it was insane. I cannot believe we pulled it off. It's insane. It's crazy.
The Teddy Swims record is amazing.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, burn bridges, lighting the. Wait, what's the lyric exactly?
Burned enough bridges to light my way home through the darkest night.
It's true.
Yep.
I feel that. Fucking A. How does one realize they burn bridges in their life?
I mean, just that maybe when you look back and you're like, oh, fuck, that's on fire. That's usually the way I know. This is not usually my intention in the moment, but I've definitely burned bridges. But, you know, I can safely and happily and proudly say that I've probably burned the most bridges in this industry by being an outspoken person about what I want to do and what I think me and other artists deserve, and to try and stay true to what I want to do. You know, I haven't always been known for my delicacy with regards to talking to like record labels and people like that. I'm getting a lot better at it. But yeah, I'm learning patience and learning to be chill.
Is that the hardest part about this whole thing?
There's so many hard parts about it. No, that's not that hard. You know, I still have a little bit of like petty punk in me where, you know, I'm sort of like, you know, like the you know, somebody in a suit walks in and I'm like, okay, like, you know, I'm not fucking moving. Like, so I have to get over that sometimes and get over myself.
Well, collaboration has made us better. We've learned.
1,000%. I've grown. That is probably the way I've grown the most as an artist over the last few years is just a lot more humility as an artist. And not that I was like egotistical or anything before, but I was so afraid to let other people touch this thing of mine. And I've learned so much can come from being open, being collaborative, being adventurous, you know.
Speaking Spanish on this album?
I mean, listen.
Lie to me? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved like a Spanish crossover moment, you know, like I feel like people used to do that all through like the 90s and stuff when I was a kid. That was like big, you know, oh, their Spanish song or whatever. So I always knew I wanted to do one. And then my co-producer, Christopher Stracy, he had this like sort of reggaeton idea in his back pocket, and we were like, fuck, let's just like make it like Ennio Morricone meets like reggaeton meets like, you know, we were just like going so deep into just the adventure of it, and it was so fun. I mean, am I ever gonna make a song like that again? Probably not. But I fucking love it. You know, I'm so proud of it. It's such a cool. I mean, what a cool. Stampede's been such a gift. You know, honestly, like being able to publicly explore these different parts of myself. It's like, fuck, it's so cool. I'm so glad like my label's so chill too and wanted to do that. And like, you know, like there's so many components to it that I'm very grateful for.
But the song is also stunningly beautiful.
Thank you.
It's great.
Thank you.
Also, Kylie Minogue.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, for the gays.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
Love Kylie.
By the way, she just sounds exactly like Kylie Minogue would sound on just a country record.
Oh, no. And also just like, I can't say enough about Kylie Minogue.
She's amazing.
Oh my God. She's the sweetest. I mean, she'll text me and just be like, how are you doing? It's like, you know, I'm like, I'll see Kylie Minogue come up on my phone and I'm like, crash my car, you know? Like, it's just so crazy to me. Like,
it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
I love Kylie.
Do you just give her the lyrics and let her do her thing, or how does that work?
Yeah, we did a little bit of writing together, but I wrote most of the lyrics for sure, yeah.
When do you bring Diplo into that?
After I asked Kylie, because I wanted to, you know, Diplo's been a friend of mine for many years, and he's, you know, Diplo's given me a lot of really, he's one person in this industry who never bat an eye or asked me for a single thing, and just, you know, he like hit me up in DMs one day. I was just like, I like your song, Dead of Night. And like, you know, he's like, what else do you have? And I would share music with him, and we started hanging out. And then, you know, very shortly after knowing him, he goes, oh, do you want to come to the Grammys with me? And I was like, yeah, you know, like I'd never in my life even thought I'd go to the Grammys. Like, I mean, he did all of this stuff. This was before I was even on a major label, you know, like he did all of this stuff because he liked what I did, and we connected as people and friends and an artist. I mean, he's an incredible, he doesn't get enough credit. He's an amazing DJ, of course, but I mean, Wes is an amazing producer, you know?
He's a student of music, and he's always learning.
You can't, he is an encyclopedia of music.
We've had him on before, and he'll talk about like how he's like aware of like what this style of music that this kid's inventing in his Brazilian basement or something.
No. He has his ear to the ground in such a like admirable way. Actually, it's so cool that he's so like on the pulse.
But I will say, like, people like him, or the like Tiesto, or DJs that have been doing this a long time, like producers. That's the only way they evolve, right? Is like they have to understand where culture's going, so they're 2 steps ahead.
Yep, 1,000%. And so yeah, like he included me on his first country album that he did. I wrote actually a song for Noah Cyrus with him for that album, and I did the intro to his album.
Great album.
And yeah, it was like, I of course wanted to include him in it, and I thought this would be a great opportunity because it's a dance track, it's like disco, and then I was like, we'll give it to Wes, and he'll like, Wes knows so much about like, I mean, he brought in like a real old disco beat, like everything, he brought a lot to that song.
It is the perfect like mix of Kylie Minogue and you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, still giving country, but also something to move to.
Yeah.
It's good. Stampede's waiting for you, by the way. It's all on Amazon Music.
I love how you ended it with Rhinestone Cowboy. It just made so much sense.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to bookend, rather, the album in a way that, it begins with this queer song with Willie Nelson, who's like one of the last of that generation of country musicians and legends. I mean, and so it starts with that, and then the last one is with me and 3 other out gay men in country who are sort of like the future of that, and then with them, we call ourselves the High Gay Men in our group chat. But we kept joking, or not joking, we kept talking about and writing an original song and different ideas. At one point I thought we should do like a gospel song, and like there's all these things that were floating around. And then I forget who had the idea, but they were like, why don't we do Rhinestone Cowboy? And all of us were like, oh my God. And that song, when we all did it separately, because obviously we're in like a million different places, and we all did our vocals separately. And then I first got the kind of like master comp of all of us singing the different parts and whatever, I sent it to them, and like all of us were crying, like it was so emotional, more so than I ever, I wanted to do something important with purposely, I chose those guys purposely, obviously, but I didn't even realize like, it was really like, moving for us to all be together singing on a song. And, like, if you think of just collectively all of us, all of the fears and prejudice and barriers and everything we faced probably in country music, just each of us for being gay, like, it was like a release to do that song.
I can make the case that country music was not established to be accepting of people like you or myself or Fancy or TJ. It's not not, it wasn't built that way.
Right.
It's evolving to become that. But initially its intent was not that.
Well, no, it's like, I mean, there was like Patrick Haggerty, Lavender Country, which is like very cult, underground, gay country artist, the grandfather of gay country. If people don't know about Lavender Country, they should check it out. He has a song called Crying Those Cocksucking Tears.
It's all on Amazon Music.
On Amazon Music now, yeah. No,
tell Alexa to play.
Alexa, play Crying Those Cocksucking Tears. I'd die. That is so funny. No, but other than that,
but also the bravery to release Cowboys Are Secretly Frequently Fond of Each Other. I mean, that's brave as shit.
Yeah. Well, Ned's a cool guy. I did a listening party in New York a few months ago for when the first half of the album came out. And Ned Sublette like walked in the door. He like surprised us and was at the listening party, and I got to sing Cowboys with him while we were listening to it. It was fucking insane.
But speaking of being vulnerable,
amazing.
right? Like,
Yeah.
that's
Like, and then for Willie to do it not once but twice is so sick.
you got to listen to the album. It's waiting for you. Stampede, link below, or just tell your Alexa to do her thing. What are you thinking?
Do you purposely use one-word album titles on purpose?
Yeah, and they're all equestrian
Yeah.
Yeah, but
themed.
it's also evolution, right? From
Yeah.
pony, you're just a pony, and then you become a show pony. You realize what fame is, right? Then you're turning into something real, like a real horse, Bronco.
Yep.
And now this is giving full steam ahead. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's multiple horses, obviously, because it's duets, so Stampede made sense.
Oh, that's so smart.
Yeah.
But it's also forward motion. It's not stationary.
Yep.
It's cool.
Yeah, and it's like bombastic, sort of, because it's adventurous. And yeah, that was definitely like, that you hit the nail on the head. I mean, Pony, I knew I wanted to call my album Pony because I felt like the idea of a pony was like layered for me in this sort of symbolism of like, it was sort of sad and sort of like, underdogish and like,
But still cute.
but cute. It could be something you give a 16-year-old girl for her birthday, or
Has
it's
potential?
like, or it's something a cowboy has to take out back and put out of its misery.
Are you the
like,
pony?
I'm the pony. Yeah, of course. I'm the horse each time. And then Show Pony was, I was on a major label. I was writing these kind of almost Elton John type, more like glitzy songs. I did a song with Shania Twain. So Show Pony
Great
made
record.
sense because it was suddenly like I was the same old pony, but I was like, had some ribbons and bows on it, And then Bronco was me breaking free artistically, breaking free out of a really insane relationship. And it felt like, I felt like, if you want to use the sort of the symbolism of like, kicking the barn doors open and just like bolting. I mean, that's what I felt like Bronco was for me. Yeah.
And Stampede.
And Stampede, it's Stampede is me and all of these other people, barreling forward and being adventurous and kind of, it's like some,
It's a really special album.
Thank you.
You should be incredibly proud.
Thanks, I am.
There's a link below. It's more than worth your time and your energy. It's really good. It's really like it's really good. It's so fucking good. God, where are we now? It's great. We got to wrap it up. Okay. Sorry, I can talk for a while.
No, me too.
Click
Thank you.
below. Listen to Stampede. Thank you, Orville Peck. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
At literally any time.
Yeah,
You're
I love it. It's great.
very much the future.
Really good
of country
catering here at Amazon, so I'll come back.
Oh, you like the little snacks? Love it. Take them with you. Orville Peck, everybody.
Thank you.